Hey everybody, welcome to Mike Oski's Kitchen. I'm Mike Olszewski, your chef and the chef of this kitchen. Appreciate you stopping by today. I hope the potato cakes worked out really well for you last week. And if they did, gosh, let me know. Go ahead and comment on that video. Let me know how they turned out. Also, if you had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. So we're moving on, staying with the Polish theme this week. And it's about 45, 50 degrees outside. It's raining. We think, wow, what a great day to make some perfect Polish comfort food. And yes, my favorite Polish comfort food is Haluski. A lot of people call it Lazanki. Where I grew up in Pennsylvania, we call it Haluski. So you can Google it. The names are synonymous, it seems like, throughout. But for this kitchen and me being the chef of this kitchen, I'm calling it Halusky. Very simple recipe. Very minimal when it comes to ingredients. In fact, let me show you. Go ahead, get a pen and a paper, and you want to write these ingredients down. So I'll have a sip of my beer, and then you go ahead and get a pen and a paper. Okay, here we go. Ready? 1 head of cabbage. Pretty simple. Egg noodles. I like the extra wide. You can get any kind of egg noodles you want. Just make sure they're egg noodles. Of course, you have the all-important, famous Polish kielbasa. You can get Eckrich Farms. You can get whatever kielbasa that you find, but make sure it's kielbasa. We're gonna use about 1 pound of that, okay? 6 tablespoons of butter. I like the unsalted kind. Bacon. We're not gonna use the whole pound of bacon, but we're gonna use some of it, and I'll show you when we get over to the hot spot, which I call, also known as the stovetop. But bacon, pretty decent sized onion would be great. And of course, sauerkraut. So, we got some chopping to do. It's very short chopping time we're going to be spending, but we got to do it because it's very important to the recipe. And then once we get everything done, we'll head back over to the hot spot, put it all together, and you're going to be so impressed about this recipe and feeding this to your family. So let's get busy, let's get to chopping, and let's go. Okay, so Halusky has cabbage and noodles and kielbasa and bacon and of course wonderful goodness. I love it. Cabbage is really important because we're going to fry this cabbage up, but let's cut the cabbage first. If you see on the cabbage, there's this huge core at the bottom. I know a lot of people, I'm going to show you how to cut it really simply. I know a lot of people like to take a paring knife and dig this core out. Gosh, it takes a long time. It's more dangerous. You might lose a digit while you're doing it. I don't want that happening. But what we can do is, I'll show you a very simple way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this cabbage down on its core. I'm going to take a big old knife. I'm going to go halfway down the cabbage. Okay? Then I have 2 halves, right? I'm going to flip the half over, and I'm going to cut that in half. So now we have 4 quarters of the cabbage. And what I did was I followed the core. Simply what you have to do at this point here is that if you can look here, here's the core right here. If you can see it, it's right here at the corner where I cut it. Rather than coring it out like I said you had to do, all you have to do is just kind of follow it with a little knife, and bam, your cabbage is cored. There's your cabbage core. How do we cut our cabbage for Haluski? I like to just go straight down. We don't want to go too far as about a 1/2 inch cuts each time. Just go along, just go along the length of the cabbage. Turn it and just cut it up a little bit. You don't want diced cabbage, you just want some nice length of the cabbage. I'll show you how it looks when it gets in a bowl. This is about what you're looking for. About this size right here. I'm going to take that cabbage, a little bit more cutting here. I'm going to take that cabbage, I'm going to go ahead and drop it into the bowl. If you see some bigger pieces, go ahead and cut it up. It's okay, it's your kitchen, you can do what you want. I'm going to take that and put it into this bowl. I'm only keeping this bowl here as a parking garage for the cabbage because you can see it makes a lot of, it takes up a lot of room while you're cutting it. So we're going to do one at a time, but this is just the first one. So we're just going to go ahead and put this all in the bowl. And now, that's 1/4 of the cabbage. So here's what we're going to do from here. I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of them up. so we got our cabbage cored and cut and shredded. Next thing you want to do is do an onion. Very simple. Now you don't want to dice this onion. You don't want to mince it. You just want to cut it coarsely. And I'm just going to show you a very simple way to do it. I just kind of go down the side, very vertical. You can cut any way you want, really, but this is the way I like to do it. And then I come back the other way with the knife. And then once I get that cut, what I'll do is I'll put it right here in the middle, make a nice little pile of it, and then I'll just rock the knife back and forth. Again, you don't want it too small because you want to make sure you taste the texture of the onion in the halusky, and it cooks well with the cabbage. So you can see that right there. And I'm just going to transfer it to the same bowl that I put the cabbage in. There's about your consistency with the onions. You can see they're not diced, it's kind of chunked. So that's pretty much what you want to have for the onion. I'm going to go ahead and take this onion, put it right into the same bowl I had the cabbage. There we go. Ready for the next cutting technique and item. We talked about having kielbasa, so we got to have kielbasa in our halusky, or Lazanki, whatever you want to call it. Again, that's up to you. Kielbasa, we're going to go about a pound of kielbasa. This is about 14 ounces. You can use a pound, you can use half a pound. Again, you don't have to use kielbasa, but if you want to make a Polish dish, you kind of have to. So, very simply, what I do with kielbasa is that I kind of cut them in thirds to make it simple. Now, I like to have my kielbasa quartered. Let me show you how to do that. So I have a third of it, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. You see I have two sides, stick them back together, hold it together, and I cut it in length again. Now at this point, I just go ahead and make chunks. That's about what we're looking for. Can you see that? Just little quarters. So we're going to put that aside. That does not go in with the cabbage. Let's cut the rest of this kielbasa up, okay? Okay, so we got everything cut. We got our kielbasa cut up. We got our cabbage and onions cut up in the same bowl. Again, a bowl's just to park it because you can tell it makes a lot of stuff. The kielbasa's all quartered. That's the way I like it. You can cut it in halves. You can cut it in full lengths. I don't care what you do, but you got to have the kielbasa. So right now, tell you what, one more thing to do is that we have sauerkraut. Now, the sauerkraut's very important in this dish. What I like to do, you don't want all this juice in the sauerkraut, so I take a strainer and I put the sauerkraut in there. I try to strain some of that juice out of there, okay? Here's a simple way to do it if you don't know what you're doing. Here's a very simple way to do it. You take the back of your can and just push it down. This way you don't have to get your hands in it and smell like sauerkraut for the next week and a half. You don't want to do that. People will know what you're doing. You know, I remember my grandmothers, my bushas especially, you know, when the thing I remember about their kitchen is that their hands always smelled like onions, both of them. And that was because they cooked with onions so much growing up. So when I smell onions, the first thing that comes to my mind is my Busha's house. Remembering her in her house dress and smelling like onions. So you just want to squeeze this out. We're going to let this sit in the sink for a while, just let it continue to drain. We're going to add it later into the halusky. But that's just a simple way to go ahead and squeeze it out without getting your hands all stinky. So with that being said, let's go over to the hot spot, the stovetop. Let's go. Okay, so hey, we're back now. We're at the stovetop, which I call the hot spot myself. This is where all the fun happens. This is where all the cooking takes place. So what we're going to do, there's a couple steps you have to follow here. First thing we're going to do is going to take that kielbasa that we quartered up. We're going to go ahead and brown it. I have a warm pan with old iron sides, which is my cast iron pan. Love it, and I just like the way it cooks. But anyway, I'm gonna put all this kielbasa in there and I'm just gonna brown it a little bit, okay? And while that's browning, we talked to you a little bit about what we're gonna do here with the water. Now we're gonna cook our noodles. Of course, we're just gonna boil them. We wanna cook them al dente, which is pretty much kind of like a firmer noodle. If you cook them like the package says to cook them, they come out really soft. And the more they cook with the haluski and the cabbage and everything else, it might get pretty mushy. You don't want that. So this particular type of noodle, it's called extra wide egg noodle. It says 6 to 8 minutes. I'll go ahead and boil it for about 5 minutes, but I'm gonna go ahead and start the water right now. And then what I wanna do is add just a little bit of salt to it for taste. And then once that starts to boil, we'll go ahead and put the noodles in there. But at this point right now, I'm just gonna go ahead and brown this kielbasa. Again, just keep it brown. Not crispy, we just wanna heat it up. We just wanna make sure that it has some nice color to it, and we'll just keep moving it around the pan here. Then there's another step after this that we'll move towards with bacon. That's my favorite step. So we're gonna go ahead and keep this browning. Okay, so our kielbasa is nice and brown. It's creating a nice little grease at the bottom of the pan. Never do you want to touch that grease. That's what makes things good. You got to have unity with it. So I'm going to go ahead. It's just browned enough, just here and there. I'm going to take a slotted spoon. I'm just going to go ahead and scoop this out, leaving the grease in the pan. I'm just going to set it aside. Take all the kielbasa out. Don't worry, this kielbasa will be making another appearance in this recipe in a big way. We want to get all the kielbasa out of the pan. Again, we're not gonna clean this pan out at all. Old Ironsides is going to stay cooking because we got another step with another fantastic friend of Polish food, which is bacon, coming up right now. 4 ounces of bacon. We want to go with 4 ounces of bacon. I have 4 ounces of bacon pretty much in my hand, probably 4 or 5 strips. So we're going to go ahead and just cook this bacon like you're cooking breakfast, nothing special. And we just want to cook it down. I got 4 strips for this meal. About 4 ounces, like I said. And we're just going to go ahead and let this bacon cook. And guess what? This bacon will render its own sauce and own juices, and we're going to keep it in there because we're going to mix some other additional things. You see, the thing about cooking, the way I like to cook, is that you don't really waste anything. Everything has unity. The bacon's going to cook with each other, the kielbasa is going to cook with itself, and now we're going to bring everything together. It's like unity. It's just like this wonderful time of everything coming together. So we're going to cook this bacon. Not too crispy. We just want to kind of get it to the point where it's, I don't know, a little bit of brown on one side. So I'll just keep checking on it as we go. So let's go ahead and cook this bacon. I'll flip it and then we'll continue to cook it. Okay, so the bacon is almost done, or I should say it is done. I don't want to have it crispy. You don't want to have that way because you want to make sure that you keep the integrity of the bacon, that it stays together. If you can't make it too crispy and then you go to chop it, which we're going to do in a second, it'll just shatter. So you don't want that. So the bacon looks pretty much the way we want it. As you can see, I'm going to take it out of here and let it cool for a second. And the best thing about cooking it this way is that inside this pan, there's a whole bunch of bacon grease, a whole bunch of kielbasa grease, and we're gonna what's called deglazing this pan. We're gonna add some butter here in a second. But what I want to show you right now is once the bacon is out, want to make sure that we get it cut up really nice. I just like to, just cut it in pieces. You can cut it any way you want. It's a little warm, so if you have a high heat tolerance, don't worry about it. I just cut it up. So that's about the consistency. If you can see right here, this is about the bacon consistency you want, little chunks. They don't have to be geometrically correct. They can just chop them up. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these other three up. So the bacon is now going to go ahead and, we got the bacon all cut up. Here's all the pieces, very small. You can cut them any size you want. But we're going to go ahead and make sure that we put these two together, the bacon and the kielbasa. And we're going to add these to the Halusky here shortly, but they're going to sit together as good friends for just a little bit. Okay? Boom. I'm going to go ahead and move this pan back to this. This is where we're going to add our butter. This is the beautiful part of it. So I would suggest that you get ready for some really, really great tastes and smells to pop. We have all this bacon and kielbasa, leftover grease and pieces and chunks. So we're going to deglaze it. And by doing that, we're going to go ahead and put 6 tablespoons of butter. I like to keep the butter chopped up because it melts pretty much more quickly that way. You can see that. Let's keep it there too. You see what's happening? This butter's breaking down. You want to melt all this wonderful butter, and what we've created is its own natural sauce of bacon grease, kielbasa grease, and butter. I know some of your hearts are starting to ache right now. So you want to turn the heat down just a little bit. At this point, we're going to go ahead and add our cabbage and our onion. I'll show you what to do in a second with that. Okay, so I am a messy cook, but I mean, aren't we all? We have our cabbage into that mixture of butter, bacon grease, and kielbasa grease. And right now we're just gonna let it simmer just a little bit. In the meantime, we have this water boiling up here, and we want to cook our egg noodles, not all the way, but just part of the way, because they're going to continue to cook when we mix it together with the Haluski. So what we want to do is go ahead and put this in right now. This is a pound of egg noodles, 16 ounces, and this bag calls for us to boil it for 6 to 8 minutes. We're going to go 5. Just get it all in there, let it boil. Okay? So we'll let that get back to boiling. We'll keep an eye on it, and we'll start a timer for 5 minutes. Now, as that's cooking, we're going to want to go ahead. Here's the tricky part, is getting to coat this. You see how high this is right now? I just kind of move it with a fork, and I move it with a wooden spoon. You can use whatever you want, whichever you're comfortable with. But we want to start to get this reduced. You see how high it is in the pan? We want to get it back down to about the pan level or lower, because at that point the cabbage is already starting to fry. It's getting coated in the greases and the juices. But you want to take your time in doing that. So I kind of go in the bottom and I just keep coating it slowly. And it's okay, some's going to fall out from time to time. It's not a big deal, it's cooking. You can see our egg noodles are cooking really well. As you can see, we're starting to coat the cabbage with the greases and the oils. You can see that right now in the color. It's not looking green. It's starting to have that little bit of a brownish tint to it, and that's the bacon grease and the kielbasa leftovers and all the bits coming together as one. So it's just kind of like a salad. I mean, you're mixing a salad, It's okay, some flies out. If it doesn't fall on the floor, put it back in there. Don't worry about it. Look, we're all chefs of our own kitchens. It's okay, we can make a mess. I'm going to go ahead and continue to let this heat about medium heat. I'm going to let this thing boil down. I'm just slowly moving this thing around just to make sure I'm getting the cabbage and the onions all coated with that bacon grease. You can already see it starting to reduce. It was up here, now it's down here. So I want to keep doing that. I want to keep making it, make it to the point where it gets all coated and all that. Again, if it doesn't fall on the floor, put it back in. Believe me, there's a lot of pieces in the floor. So we're just going to go ahead and continue to kind of move this around and let that cabbage reduce with the onions. And then I got a great surprise for you. Okay, so the noodles are about done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these off the stove, and then I'm going to go ahead and strain them. And then just gonna return them back to the pot, okay? So let's go ahead and get these out of the way. Okay, so hey, look how far this has reduced. This is the cabbage and the onions. You remember it started like right up here. Now it's down about this. This is what we want to do. Look at that nice coating. It's got a wonderful coating of the bacon grease and the butter and the kielbasa grease that was left over. So that's about where you want it to be. Now we're going to go ahead and make it just that much better. I'm going to take the kielbasa that I browned and the bacon that we browned, and we're going to add it right to this mixture. And then we're going to do that. Mix that around a little bit. Oh my goodness, does that look good? There we go. We don't want to leave anybody behind. And of course, cooking Polish, lots of pepper. I like to have a nice little coating on top of everything, and just mix it all in here in a second. So what you want to do once you add your meat back into the haluski, into the mixture, we're just going to go ahead and mix it all together. All big one happy family in there. There's friends everywhere. There's bacon friends. There's onion friends. There's kielbasa friends, there's cabbage friends, all working together for one awesome taste. You don't have to do too much with it. You're just gonna make sure you mix it in and everything gets coated together. You can see how I'm doing. I'm still being sloppy. Put it back in there. It's okay to hit the floor. You can see that's where we're at. That's a good looking mixture at that point. And now we're about ready to take the final step. As you can see, there's our noodles. I've strained them. I put them into a separate bowl. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to transfer the entire contents of this into this pot and mix it together, and then we are done. So here we go. Just did a couple more flips of the wrist. My wooden spatula, and that's going to take a slotted spoon. Okay, so we got our mixture in with our noodles, and all we have to do at this point is give it one final mix, one final coat. You see, there's nothing special here. It's just very simple, hard work, getting tough with it. Keep on, just mix it together. Okay, one final step. This is the sauerkraut. We want to add a little bit of kraut to it. And we're going to mix that in as well, just like this. Be careful with the noodles, just be calm with it. I always dive down to the bottom and then lift up from the bottom and then roll it over. Dive down to the bottom, lift up from the bottom and roll it over. And what that does That prevents us from chopping things up or mushing things together. Down to the bottom, roll it over. Dive down to the bottom, scoop, and then roll it over. And there you have it. Let's go ahead and do one final thing. Of course, a Polish touch, pepper. And one final mix. Dive down to the bottom, roll it over. Dive down to the bottom, roll it over. Dive down to the bottom, roll it over. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is your Halusky. Okay, everybody, congratulations. You just made a fantastic Polish comfort food called Haluski or Lazanki, whatever you want to call it. You can change the name, I don't care. But this is a fantastic Polish food. It's a fantastic comfort food for those cold days like it is out here today. It's, you know, in the high 40s and rain. Great time to make something like this. Oh my gosh, it's fantastic. But what I'm going to do, I've got to taste test it before I tell you how good it is. Oh man, that is awesome. I mean, you get a taste of noodles, cabbage, onion, bacon, and kielbasa and butter. It's all mixed into one beautiful unity. It's fantastic. So I'll tell you what too, look, it makes a lot. Look at all that Haluski. That's a pretty good sized pot. So if you don't eat it all at once, don't worry about it, because actually the Haluski is better the next day or the day after. All you got to do is take it out of the, take it out of where you're storing it, put it in a bowl, heat it up in a microwave with just a little bit of butter if you want. You don't have to add it, but if you want to, it's fantastic that way, but it's fantastic heated up. This is awesome. You're going to enjoy it. And I'll tell you what, do me a favor. Once you make this, let me know how it goes. Let me know, what you think. And you can comment on this video. But in the meantime, go ahead and like this video. Go ahead and, tell your friends about it. But most of all, man, just go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because we're going to make stuff like this and more. There'll be more Polish dishes. There'll be more non-Polish dishes. We're going to make all kinds of stuff, because you know what? We are chefs of our own kitchen, and we're going to make mistakes. We're going to have fun. We're going to laugh. But this Haluski, oh man, it's a winner. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the video. And like I said, till the next time, next week, thanks for showing up, and na zdrowie.